Not a whole lot to care about Star Wars for me these days after one show after another that was just at best lackluster and at worst god awful. In the case of Obi-Wan, with the only exception being Andor, which was a good show. It just wasn't much of a Star Wars show. But it was a good show, although I think it was a good show because it was left alone and rather ignored by Lucasfilm overall. And which means like a follow-up season is probably going to take a turn for the worse. But anyway, the latest rumor, and this one, it has a lot of credibility to it because of this interview that Star Wars Theory was doing with this Roger Christian, a guy who has a long history with Star Wars. He developed the design and for the lightsaber. And he's gone on to be a director himself and all this sort of stuff. So, it was a nice interview going on. And then he gets on the subject about George Lucas. And he says, I think he's coming back. I'm pretty sure now that he's doing a series. I think that they're now bringing him into the fold, from what I hear, because there's a Star Wars live-action series coming. And I've got a strong suspicion that George will have something to do with that. That's what I'm thinking, and I might be prophesizing. So he's heard things. He's a believable source in that aspect of it because of his history and whatnot. And this falls into an idea of why would George Lucas back Bob Iger after Bob Iger clearly screwed him over in the handling of his baby Star Wars. It was blatantly obvious that Lucas was not happy with what they did from the beginning with Force Awakens. He did not like that. He thought it was nothing new to it. They passed on his ideas in exchange for this lackluster ripoff of New Hope and that sort of thing. And then he does the interview about, selling his children to the white slaver. Obviously was not popular. So why would he do it? And the theory goes that he got something in return for this, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is finally, it says, George, you can have creative control over Star Wars. I'll see to it that this project is all yours and you can oversee it as you see fit. Now, if it's just one project, a series no less, on DP, or is it more of a larger role that he has a bigger say-so over the direction of Star Wars overall? Perhaps. It's not a crazy scenario that's what got George to side with Iger in the proxy battle that recently happened. And so this is the payoff, is that he's, if not totally in control, does have more power and say-so over this. And whatever this particular project that's supposed to be would be completely his. This follows on the heels of rumors about Jon Favreau leaving. Now, that's been rumored for quite a while. Again, credibility to that is how badly he was treated and how his direction, and he's the one talent in all this Disney Star Wars debacle who seemingly did nearly what I thought was impossible, was bring Star Wars back with Mandalorian Season 2 at the end with Luke Skywalker and all that. And just at that moment, had they not sabotaged him with the Gina Carano scandal and all that stuff that they did, which now has this lawsuit, which they're doubling down on smearing this woman, it stands to reason that he would not be a happy camper. Since then, seen these shows that has his name attached, but they don't resemble anything that he's done. Certainly not the first two seasons of Mandalorian. Mandalorian Season 3 itself, it came across as a sabotage show. It was awful. Not as bad as Book of Boba Fett in some areas. Not as bad as Obi-Wan. But pretty bad. Plus his own character that he played in that series got killed off. So it seemed like that was about it. And for the most of it, it seemed like there was no real plan to undo the sequel trilogy or anything of that nature. Just that he was going to pad the backstory around it. But, the type of stuff that should have been done in that trilogy, but wasn't. That's not going to fix anything. It doesn't matter that there's a few good shows here and there. Connected to that pile of crap, it's the turd in the bowl of soup, Might be the greatest soup ever, but there's a little turd in it. You can't just tell people to spoon around it. And that's the situation you've got there. And for him wanting to get out when the contract expires, whatever it was and how long he was attached, and of course NDAs abound and all that sort of thing. And that, he was holding out for a moment where there's this big payoff and he can turn it around, and that, this might be it. He and George Lucas would take over Star Wars and fix it. The problem is an awful lot of time has gone by. And especially for a man like Favreau, who's not as old as Lucas, he's still got some years in him to do projects. And, why would he's got to sit there and wait for years? The only thing is that, boy, he's got something coming and we just don't know. And okay, but that is clearly a case of I'll believe it when I see it. I don't trust anything coming out of Lucasfilm nowadays, and I'm pretty much done. I gave Ahsoka a chance. It aesthetically, it looked a lot better than something like Obi-Wan was, which is astounding considering the importance of the character. But it had stupid plot holes in it. It stumbled around. It just had it was not good. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. And that was it. And this is the quality I can expect for future Star Wars, that just, doesn't mention the sequel trilogy anymore, makes some lame attempt at trying to prop it up with backstory. I'm not interested in that. Stories about the old Republic and something would be interesting and done well. Okay, you've got these other properties like that, which at best is what Star Wars had left going for it with Mandalorian, but that got sabotaged. I don't know. I just don't have a whole lot of excitement for it anymore, and too much time has gone by, and there is such a thing as too late. And plus, you have to think of the overall aspect of brands like that, of the generations you've lost here that you didn't capture with the product so far as you've been going because it's so bad. Don't think you have all the time in the world to capture an audience. You don't. There's always something else. And the interests have expanded. The movies don't really have the hold they used to. And if they were better at a time where they were losing it, it might have changed. But there's just been more bad than good, especially out of things that have the potential to be big, and they already have a platform for where they had achieved that, and you can capture a lot of people and keep them in the fold for the business. But that's not what happened. So it's a sad set of circumstances. Does George get a chance now after it's been burnt down to tell the story of the Force and that sort of thing? But again, even for him, it's probably too late. For the sake of Star Wars, hopefully I'm completely wrong. But that's a lot of odds that, as far as I can tell, is right in front of me when looking at this. Meanwhile, over at Disney's other big brand, the MCU, they've got Deadpool and Wolverine coming, and I think that'll do well. No matter how good it does, it will not do enough to save Marvel or anything like that. Then there's Thunderbolts, and more details about that one. Seems to be that it's more of female characters will be in the lead, and the male characters will be stumbling idiots who lose or fail or die or whatever. It's rumored that a lot of the characters will not survive this film, and most notably Sebastian Stan's character of Bucky will die at the end. And primarily the main survivor, and some of the female characters might die as well, but the main one who survives is the new Black Widow, Florence Pugh, who's played Natasha's sister in Black Widow, and that she would continue on for the next Avengers film, I would suspect. But also reminding of a really dumb decision they did with the character of Taskmaster, who could have been a great character. Gender swapped the character, and so they're going to continue with that version of it. And of course, if they want Taskmaster in the film, they pretty much have to, because this is what they did. And so Olga Kurylenko, I believe is how you pronounce the name. Yeah, she was a pretty girl in James Bond and all that stuff, but she's good at being pretty girls. She's not very good at being male supervillains. With her head CGI'd on the body of the stunt double here, who was a man. So just to remind you of that stupidity, they'll have her in there and all that, but it just... At the moment, they need to abandon a lot of this crap, and couldn't you have come up with some other character to fill out the team? But, what have you. And then what they're planning with Fantastic Four, and God only knows what they've done with Captain Falcon and all that. It doesn't look good. And so these are more of the reasons why Deadpool and Wolverine can do very good, but it's only good for that franchise unto itself. When you're following it up with movies like this, I don't think you're getting that audience back. You had them, and you kicked them out the door. So finally, in the third time's the charm department, if you don't count Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 as two different films. So Zack Snyder's Netflix endeavors with Army of the Dead, which I did not like. It had a massive plot hole right at the beginning, and it kicked me out of the film. It looked really good, and that's usually an aspect of Zack Snyder's films. They always look good. There's always something spectacular to see. In the case of Rebel Moon, didn't really think that much, which is rather shocking considering it's this outer space spectacular type thing. But it's just long drawn out, very it was stupid. I just have nothing really good to say about Rebel Moon, and I wish it weren't the case, but I'd be lying if I said it weren't. But so finally, the third project coming from him on Netflix will be this animated series based on Norse mythology, which is actually a cool thing to approach. It's called Twilight of the Gods, and that refers to Ragnarok, which is the final story of the Norse gods, kind of like their book of Revelation, if you will. It's the final battle between good and evil in there, and all of that. But it's described as an anthology series, so perhaps there'll be multiple stories based on the old myths of the Norse gods, and perhaps actual Ragnarok would be one of the stories, the last one perhaps. And that would be a cool thing to see play out. This reteams him with Jay Oliva, who was his storyboard artist that worked on his DC movies, and of course he's been heavily involved in the DC animation films, and there's quite a few other guys that from the DC animated films, a lot of those, Supergirl and what have you. So it'll be in this computer animated, but in 2D, not 3D form. And hopefully third time's the charm, and perhaps this will be the best of what he's produced for this Netflix deal that he's been doing. And well, it wouldn't be too hard compared to the first two outings, in my opinion. So maybe this will turn out to be something special. I don't know, but hope springs eternal, and we'll see how that goes. This also speaks to rumors about perhaps he could get a shot at doing an animated version of his Justice League films that he lost out on when they decided to reboot the DCEU. And if they made a deal where he oversaw an animated version of that, especially when he's utilizing a lot of people who work in DC animation, that odds are maybe there is some talk about that. And if this does really well, that would go a long way, perhaps some sort of licensed deal for that. As far as a live action return to it, I don't know. There's some speculating that it doesn't matter how long down the road it would get made. He could just, rearrange the scripts to where it did take place that much later. And that would actually be kind of interesting. Although by then, you would have to make room for the fact that Lois Lane would have given birth, and Superman or Clark and Lois would be raising their child, and the child would be much older in a couple of years from now, depending on how long you want to say it's been since the first Justice League film. So things like that. But that's all rumor and that sort of thing, whereas this thing is actually coming. And if he does get a shot at an animated series or what have you, or film, this will probably give you an idea of what it might look like should he get the opportunity. But anyway, hopefully for the Snyder efforts at Netflix, which as far as I'm concerned, it's been 2 strikes. Strike 3 and you're out. But we'll see. And following up on that material and a good approach, and hopefully listening to other people with storytelling ideas, and hopefully not slowing down the animation forever just to show them go to the bathroom or something. Hopefully some lessons have been learned. I'm dubious on that, but then, maybe Twilight of the Gods has a shot. But we'll have to wait and see, as is the case with all things. And hopefully this will be the charm. Hopefully it will be. That's about it for this time around. Doctor Who hates you. Yeah. But doesn't matter because it's not Doctor Who anymore. Don't blame me. Blame RTD. He wouldn't let that guy be the actual Doctor. No, he made him the Doctor's, clone or something. Yeah. Anyway, that's another visit with some coming attractions coming your way, and some that may be coming your way. And again, time will tell in all aspects of these items.